Hi everyone, I'm Eric Sandilands. I wrote a short story, Sam and Moses, and thought I'd just say a few words today about why I wrote the story and what it's about. I hope that's of interest. I was walking our family dog through Linthorpe Cemetery in Middlesbrough, as I had done a few mornings when we lived there, and stumbled across a grave that was different from the others, that was covered in feathers with flowers around it, and you're kind of half asleep, wonder like, what's this? And you're mainly watching the dog and looking for other dogs and all that sort of thing. But the Friends of Linthorpe Cemetery had a notice up, and they talked about this was the grave of Moses Carpenter, and that he'd sadly died in 1889 of pneumonia, in the North Riding Infirmary in Middlesbrough. But 10,000 people had attended his funeral, and I thought, wow, the town probably had maybe 60,000 people at the time, perhaps something like that. It was still growing, etc. And I was fascinated by this story, and it's been on my mind for a long time. And then I started to look into it a little bit more and write it down. But Moses Carpenter was born Scar-Yun Yarty in the Six Nations Reserve in southern Ontario in the Grand River area, which is modern-day Brantford area. Probably about an hour's drive from Toronto in the Horseshoe in modern Canada, kind of inland from Lake Ontario. And he's originally an Iroquois Mohawk, you'd say Indian at the time. We wouldn't use that phrase now. We think about first Canadians or, more broadly, Native Americans, Native North Americans. We're a little bit more culture sensitive now, I like to think, but he was part of like an Indian medicine show, and again, using the language at the time, but, having been raised in the 60s, 70s, and, watching cowboy movies and seeing these Indian medicine shows create a splash wherever they went in what was this thing was the Wild West and all the rest. I didn't realize what a big thing they were in the 1880s, 1890s in Great Britain, in Ireland, and as far away as New Zealand. These were a thing, they're an impactful thing. And Moses was part of a medicine show run by Secor, who had a big business, funnily enough. He was selling his prairie oil and Secor's oil rather, and prairie flower and these remedies. He was putting on a show with dentistry and music and spectacle and traveling. But he reached a point where there was more than one Secor. He had a number of them, and he had big competitors, and he was trying to fight them off, and probably developed quite a legal mind, believe it or not. So this was a real thing for our forebears, in industrial towns in the north of England and elsewhere, in that late period of the 19th century, which is kind of just beyond our horizon now a little bit. So Moses was embedded with Secor. Secor was actually born William Hartley. Now, in my story, I have him born in Portsmouth. Sometimes see that he was born in Yorkshire. I'm not 100% sure, but I based him in Portsmouth in my fictionalized version of the story, because I was trying to think, well, how did William Hartley become Secor? What makes a young boy from England? My setting from Portsmouth, I set him on the point round the docks. Why would he become Secor? So I have him listening to stories, seeing sailors arrive from the St. Lawrence and the eastern seaboard of the USA with told tales and artifacts and all the rest of it, and kind of capturing his imagination. And the very early novels were coming out around 1860 that might have reached someone who wasn't from a moneyed background, but he created this character, he inhabited this character. William Hartley became and lived as Secor, and Moses must have been happy being alongside him and many others in this traveling medicine show. I tell the story through the eyes of Sam, a young boy in what we now call St. Hilda's in the old original town, which was developed as a railway settlement. But I have Sam's dad moving in from giving up ironstone mining to move to work in the docks and try to create a better life for his family and himself. Still backbreaking work, but not I guess all things are relative, not like mining was at that time, which was so dangerous, so difficult, so backbreaking. So moving for a better life, and Middlesbrough at that time, like many northern towns, was filling up with people from far and wide, really looking to create a better life for themselves and their family. In Middlesbrough's case, a lot of people come from Ireland, a lot of people coming from Wales. And around the north more generally at that time, miners from Cornwall were moving north to mine lead and coal. Big agricultural recession meant people were leaving Norfolk and moving into industrial towns. It was a time of upheaval, but if you're a young child at that time, boy at that time, living out on the streets, it'd be an exciting time as well. And have Sam living his life on the streets, but being kind of shy, just trying to stay out of trouble, trying to keep himself to himself, but very impacted, if you like, by Moses, who would be very exotic, but also having this very kind of calm and thoughtful and so different from everyday, working class life, really. And Sam really being devastated by his death. So the story is really of how do these people become kind of who they are and who they were, and what was it that happened in those few days in 1889, which is really the culmination of the story. So why do I think it matters? Well, I slightly think we're losing sight a little bit of that time in history, which isn't so far beyond our memories, maybe our grandparents' memory, or for young people, their great-grandparents' memories. Life was quite different, but people were people, with the same dreams and hopes and desire to create a better life, but also the need to be entertained, the need for some excitement. And those are the times that I try to recreate. I feel that, we know a lot about the lives of the wealthy. A lot of money is spent on, not unreasonably, on looking after country houses and large properties and standout buildings, but the lives of people more like most of us, I think it's just in danger of being lost. So I thought, write the story down for that reason, but really write it down because, I just love the story, really. So I hope I've done it some sort of justice. The book is available on Amazon globally, on amazon.co.uk or amazon.com, or the other international websites. It's on Kindle Unlimited, free for anyone who has that. And there's a Kindle version and a paperback version. So if you do read it, I hope you liked it. I was fascinated by it and I loved writing it down. So thanks for listening, everyone. Bye.